We've heard mention of GE briefly in the National Geographic presentation, and some exciting material there. So now we're able to go direct to the horse's mouth, to use an English phrase. Not that I'm suggesting that Sam Olstein, Global Director of Innovation at GE, is a horse. It's an Englishism, excuse me. We're going to hear it direct from the brand, from GE, how exactly their content innovation hub is working and how they're making use of content for marketing and communication purposes. So please welcome our next speaker, Sam Olstein. Sam.
Thank you so much. It's okay if anyone wants to call me a horse afterwards. I won't take any offense. All right, great. So hi, everyone. Good morning. It's great to be in Berlin from New York City. I got in 2 days ago. And I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking about our approach to content and innovation in our media and marketing. Maybe I should introduce myself first. So I lead global innovation for our global brand marketing group based in New York City at 30 Rock. And I run a team called the Disruption Lab, which is focused on experimentation and incubation and what's new and next in media and marketing. Making the future happen is also part of our mantra. It's something I like to say just because we don't really know what the future will hold. None of us do, but we know that it's coming. Tomorrow, the next day, in a year's time, and it's up to us as marketers to go out there and really make it happen and make it real for people. This is the picture on the left-hand side is the perception that we challenge every day, and that is kind of our 100-plus-year-old legacy. Most people know GE because of their parents, their grandparents, and they see us as a giant, slow-moving, bureaucratic, multiple-layered industrial conglomerate. Or they know us because they grew up with a refrigerator or an oven or a light bulb. And the truth is that we aren't in many of those businesses anymore. Over the last year, we've divested GE appliances, so we're out of refrigerators and ovens. We've shed GE Capital, and we've embraced our industrial roots, so healthcare, energy, and transportation. And that means we have very, very few consumer touch points. So that's also something that we are faced with every day, is how do we stay contemporary and relevant for a brand that doesn't really touch people every single day directly. But the truth is we do impact people dozens of times each day, and they just don't know it. The power in your phone, the jet engine I flew to get here. GE is a brand that hits people every single day, and they don't even know it. And so we need to really lean into our marketing to help kind of manufacture those consumer touch points and bring our story to the forefront. So how do we shift that perception? Well, we tell a modern internet story, and we have a really exciting one to tell. And it's a new application of the internet and kind of our digital narrative as in the future of the company. We consider ourselves America's oldest startup company. And it comes from our founder, Thomas Edison. It comes from the very top of our organization, our chairman, Jeff Immelt, our vice chair, Beth Comstock, our CMO, who I report to, Linda Boff. They live and breathe this nimbleness, this mentality of fast works and being quick to market and experimenting and taking risks. And so in that regard, we consider ourselves a startup company with everything we touch, whether it's marketing, research, product, it doesn't matter. And that also comes through in our kind of DNA of invention. I mentioned our founder, who's one of the greatest inventors of our time. Across the company, if you ask anyone, they'll consider themselves an inventor as well. Whether you work at one of our global research centers, or you work at a business, or you work in marketing, we're always trying to invent new ways to tell our story and connect with consumers. We have a passion, a very, very deep passion for science and technology, and that helps us develop and hone a very sharp focus when we go to market and we tell a story. We know exactly the perspective and the point of view that we're going to talk about, and that comes from our deep roots and passion of science and technology. And we're telling a story of big data. I think most people know the Internet of Things, and the Internet of Things is here. And the future of GE is about the Internet of giant things. And so we believe that the story of data as it relates to big industrial equipment and all of the industries we're in is part of the story that we want to tell. So I mentioned kind of our modern internet story today. And that really is what we call the digitization of industry. And that is when you add sensors and controls to big industrial equipment, in this case, an entire power plant. But when we add those sensors to collect data and measure and optimize and create better outcomes for our customers in healthcare, in aviation, in energy, it means that all of us have cheaper airline tickets. We have shorter wait times in hospital lobbies. And it means that we're going to help develop and create energy for everyone in the world, no matter where they live. So we believe that it's the platform that we're building, which is called Predix. And everyone knows, I think, operating systems and platforms today, whether it's iOS, Android, or the consumer app store. We're developing another platform called Predix, which is really going to power the next industrial revolution. And we believe that there is going to be an industrial app ecosystem that is going to help create more of these outcomes for all of our customers and industries that we're in. And so this picture is really just an example of something that we announced at our Minds and Machines conference in the fall about the future of a digital power plant, so that we can create what we call a digital thread, which helps change and optimize every part of the experience. So it's quicker for a factory to go to market with the things they're producing. It's easier for them to understand when equipment is going to fail. So there's no unplanned downtime, and we're not wasting money with the turbine sitting there and idling. And so it's kind of this synchrony and this convergence of big iron and big data that is really going to be a game changer for the future of GE. And that's what we call digital industrial. I mentioned we're all inventors, even in marketing. And this story and these shoes are an example of how we reinvent a story that we've been telling for decades. So GE played a major role in the moon landing and the Apollo program in 1969. GE worked on the Apollo program for over 15 years, developing the plastic that was in the original visor of the astronaut's helmet, and also developing the rubber that went into the sole of the original moon boot. Now that was in 1969. In 2014, we reinvented that moon boot, and it's the shoes that you see on the screen. And we took the same industrial materials, some of the same stuff that went into that original moon boot, and that we put in our machines in aviation and in energy and healthcare, and we took those same materials, carbon fiber, super hydrophobic coating, we took those exact same materials and we put them on your feet. And we made them modern, we made them hip, and we made it scarce. We made 100 pairs of these shoes, so very, very limited edition. And as we were thinking about this and trying to really, again, bring our perspective of science and technology to the world of footwear and the world of sneakerheads, we tried to act like we belonged and act like a company that was releasing a shoe. And so we used these sneakers to help launch our brand on Snapchat. The very first images of the shoe were worn by, I don't have a picture of him, but were worn by Buzz Aldrin, who was also the very first footprint on the moon, was the very first visuals of our moon boots on Snapchat. So it was part of an experiment that we called kind of content as commerce, and kind of storytelling and narrative wrapped in something you could buy and actually something you could touch. And it's something that we like to do quite often because at GE, again, we touch people every day and they don't even know it. So it's very important for us to make the invisible visible. And oftentimes when we show up, we'll show up in an unexpected way, and we'll also show up in a very tangible way. And that's what the GE moon boots were about. So we created a whole content program about material science and the materials in the original moon boot and the new moon boot leading up to the 45th anniversary of the moon landing. This is in the summer of 2014. And on the day of the anniversary, the shoes went on sale. They went on sale on a media company, a media partner that we worked with to develop the program called Jack Threads and Thrillist Media. And they went on sale at the exact moment in time where the lunar module landed on the moon. And within 7 minutes, they were gone. And they were not cheap either. They were close to $200. We priced them a special commemorative price, $196.90, 1969. And it was kind of a rush to get these shoes, as you can see by some of the results from kind of our day of the sale. And what also happened is we saw a secondary market develop on eBay because we acted like a sneaker company. We showed up, we knew what our perspective was to this kind of community of sneakerheads, and it worked. And so the shoes are on eBay today for $5,000 a pair. These are a collector's item, and the picture on the right-hand side is from the Brooklyn Museum and an exhibit on sneaker culture that had our shoes front and center next to Michael Johnson's gold cleats from the Olympics. And this is an exhibit that is rotating around America. So I think when you have kind of that perspective and are able to connect with a new audience and do it in a very grassroots way and think about storytelling wrapped in a piece of a consumer product and kind of the entire commerce experience, it worked really well for us. And we still, we only made 100 pairs, but we found a few more that fell off the truck. So we still today use our moon boots as a platform for influencer marketing. And we give moon boots away to CEOs and entrepreneurs. And someone in the back, all right, you'll have to tell us what your shoe size is. Okay. You're wearing a moon suit? We'll connect after. Awesome. So I mentioned we have this deep passion of science and technology, and it is so helpful with focus to help us kind of understand when we go and jump into a new platform and connect with a new community, our perspective and how we do it. So these images right here are from some old comic books that GE published in the 50s and 60s. I mentioned we have this incredible legacy that spans over a century, but if we're going to stay modern and contemporary, we are trying to find ways to modernize those assets and to stretch them further. And so these comic books were literally sitting on a shelf collecting dust. And they're so cool. I found these in our archives in upstate New York. We have a museum of all kinds of crazy cool GE inventions and innovations over the last 100 years. And these comic books were literally sitting on a shelf collecting dust. So they're really great historical artifacts. And in the 50s and 60s were distributed to schools as kind of engineering propaganda. It was a way to encourage young people, young students, to break into the fields of science and engineering. And so what we decided to do is take these old classic comic books, Adventures in Electricity and Our Place in Space, and bring them to the platform Wattpad. Now, Wattpad is one of these startup companies that I don't think enough people know about, but there are over 60 million people on Wattpad creating content every day. It's based out of Canada, and it is a platform for aspiring readers and writers. And they've had a number of success stories of new creators developing original fan fiction and finding an audience on Wattpad, and then creating a sequel, and then another sequel, and then selling those rights to a publishing house, and then selling them to a movie studio and making a film. So we see Wattpad as a really exciting platform and represents kind of the next crop of young creator talent. And it's a platform that we wanted to launch on for quite some time, and we couldn't figure out the right thing to do together. And it wasn't until we found these old comic books, and again, our kind of focus and passion around science and technology that helped unlock what our narrative would be on Wattpad. So we took these old comic books and we gave them to the community to help us modernize them. And this is what they sent us back. They created original stories that were shared all over the platform. They developed sequels and other chapters of some of the original Adventures in Electricity's comic series. And we also worked with the platform and the community to develop new cover art. And it was awesome. And these numbers are really representative of just a few months of activity, because this program was launched in Q4 at the end of last year. And it resonated globally. We had over 9 countries participate. We had new stories about GE Adventures in Electricity and Adventures in Science that were submitted and created in all kinds of different languages. And we cultivated and connected with an entirely new community on the Wattpad platform. And it's one we're really excited about continuing to grow and, again, bring kind of that perspective of science fiction to life. So I mentioned that we think like a startup. And Drone Week is an experiment that we piloted and developed for the live streaming platform Periscope last summer, and has turned into what is going to become a global platform for GE leading into the Olympics later this year. So Drone Week was a 5-day live multicast of GE technologies and machines all over America. And we brought viewers the perspective of our very big machines. As I mentioned before, this is the internet of giant things. And we wanted to bring them that perspective from onboard an aerial cinematography platform. So when you're in the perspective of a drone flying over a wind turbine or a locomotive, or getting an inside peek at our facility where we test our jet engines, it helps us convey the sense of scale and reach for our machines, which again are quite magnificent. And this was an experiment, as I mentioned, for Periscope. And what we tried to do was take a cue from traditional media and a kind of wrapper or a serialized container for the content. So we took a cue from something that Discovery does, which I'm sure everyone knows, called Shark Week, which is 5 days of shark content, if anybody are fans of Shark in the room. And Drone Week was kind of GE's version of Shark Week for Periscope. And we treated it like, again, a serialized show. Every day was its own episode, featured a different industry, and we had multiple segments throughout the day, multiple flights. We had teaser assets, and we treated it like a wrapper for kind of our own drone show. And we experimented with driving tune-in and engagement. And every day we brought people a different look into industries that people don't often get to see. Monday was oil and gas. Tuesday was aviation. Wednesday was renewable energy, which is this wind farm site in Tehachapi, California, in the desert. Thursday was all about locomotives at one of our transportation facilities in Fort Worth, Texas. And Friday was from a power plant in Greenville, South Carolina. So we brought people inside access to places that consumers never really get to see, especially our facility where we test our jet engines before they're shipped to airlines in the middle of the Appalachian Mountains. People rarely get an inside peek into what happens at some of these facilities. So it was our way to experiment with conveying scale, developing a kind of package and a container for what has become now a digital franchise for us, and bringing it to market on a new platform that is about being live and about kind of real-time engagement. And these are some of the results from last week. And as I mentioned before, Drone Week is becoming a global platform and will be tied to our activation for the Olympics in Brazil. Here's a quick video, highlight reel.
here in Houston, and we're on a beautiful 47-acre site.
There we go. This is what it looks like on top of a turbine.
So what you see behind us is a 4,400 horsepower diesel-electric locomotive.
So in a few months, Drone Week will be back. It'll be the week of June 13th. We'll be live from Rio. We're going to have our own opening ceremony of Drone Week, which will be a synchronized experience with drones. Above our Global Research Center, which we just opened last year in Rio. And then every day throughout the week, we'll bring people, again, kind of inside exclusive access to parts of the Olympic experience that they've never seen before. And GE has been helping Rio prepare with kind of the infrastructure challenges and building new intelligent solutions and systems for the city to help prepare for the Olympic Games. And that's what we'll show people the week of June 13th. The last thing I'll touch on is was another experiment that we developed in the fall, which was our own version of an upfront. So at GE, because we are a global company, because we have horizontal strength in many different industries, we're often trying to create more value in addition to kind of the technology that gets exchanged across industries and across businesses for our customers. As a marketing organization, we're always trying to create more value to also help with that exchange of intelligence and leadership, and in this case, access. And so the app fronts was another experiment at creating kind of a new kind of upfront for marketers, business partners, customers, anyone who's in the GE family to get exclusive access to 12 new products from up-and-coming digital apps. I know later today, Chris Alchek from Mike is going to be speaking over there. I don't know if Chris is in the room, but Chris was one of our presenters at the app fronts. And we had, in addition to Mike, we had platforms like Slack, Wattpad, the mobile brokerage firm Robinhood. These are all new startup companies that are building very quickly scalable audiences in whatever industry or vertical they're in. And the app fronts was meant to be a portal to access the audience, that audience of tomorrow. And so we asked each app to come to the app fronts and pick something from their roadmap and debut it as a new product or feature at the app fronts and potentially find a monetization partner in the audience. So this is, again, another kind of experimental play to help create more access for our entire organization globally, and also all of the businesses and customers and partners that we work with who also happen to be big advertisers. So at the app fronts, we had companies like the Home Depot and Southwest Airlines and Pepsi and CSX. And these are all existing customers of GE, and also happen to be, again, innovative brand marketers. And the app fronts was designed to, again, help create and enable an access point and a portal to kind of future audiences of tomorrow. So I don't know if I have time for questions. Maybe?
Take a quick one. Do we have any questions from the audience? Just raise a hand and we'll, if we keep it relatively brief. A quick one from me, which I have to ask.
Yeah.
Based on our fireside chat a moment ago, you've got that relationship between the agencies, the media owners, and the brand. And you as a brand are doing some really impressive things in terms of content creation and generation. You mentioned obviously working with Periscope, but in the things you do, at what stage, if any, do you begin to engage with an agency or with a media owner, and how much just comes from in-house resource before it's launched, fully formed on the world?
We lean on our agencies a lot. And it's agencies and creative partners across the board. Any platform like a Periscope or a Snapchat or whatever next month's newest thing is going to be needs a creative idea. And it's not enough for us to want to launch a presence on one of those platforms, but we really lean on our partners to help us develop that creative idea that we go to market with.
Makes sense. Okay, if there are no more questions, can I ask you please to thank Sam? Sam, thank you.
Thank you.